The cigar industry tried to put this man out of business.
They finally got together on something, and that thing was that Privada Cigar Club was public enemy #1.
He turned it into a multi-million-dollar marketing campaign.
How dare you become a part of my brain, a part of my childhood, and expect me never to borrow that and use it in other places? Your Heinz ketchup.
Brian Desmond has 9 cease and desists. The guy they tried to bury is sitting on $100 million empire.
There's the industry before Privada, and there's the industry after, and it changed, and we changed it.
In the next 2 hours, you're gonna hear the real story. The Cookie Monster controversy, the war with Half Wheel, what Carlito Fuente actually wanted.
Winning, I don't even know what it means anymore.
This is Breaking Cigars with Brian Desmond.
Sorry guys, I just can't stand flavored cigars, man.
Brian, thank you so much for doing this. I'll be honest, I've heard your name in a lot of spaces, but I don't know your actual story. So maybe let's start from the beginning.
Sure.
Who is Brian Desmond?
So I was a singer-songwriter in New York City. I've had multiple record deals. I was in the entertainment business, let's say, since about 15 years old when Scott Storch did my first demo, all the way to where I was LL Cool J's protégé for a couple of years when he was retiring from music. I thought that most of that was a waste of my life. So at around 31, I put an expiration date on music, and I was like, wow, what a waste. All my friends are working for companies. They're getting their careers on their way, and I have none of that. I have no education, blah, 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 blah. But it turned out the music industry was actually the best business school I could have ever gone to, because with the advent of the MP3, it made every musician basically an independent musician. You had to do your own stuff, your own website, your own music videos, with YouTube coming out. There were so many different things happening every single year. There was a new technological development that artists were using. You had to bribe mixtape DJs to, radio, like everything. So I thought at the time it was a waste, but when I got into actually doing regular businesses, which my first business was an auto transport brokerage, I quickly realized that I could differentiate myself from the other people in that industry by doing a few things. So the one thing that I've done in every industry that I've entered is I've brought, I want to call it honesty, but really what it is transparency. Okay. I've brought transparency to those industries. So for instance, in the auto transport business, before I got into it, if you called someone to ask them to help you ship a car from point A to point B, they made it sound like they were the trucking company, but they weren't. They were the broker, and they have no idea if they could actually get someone to pick up your vehicle at a certain time, et cetera, and so forth. And so what I did was I worked that into my thing, which is like, hey man, we're all brokers. This is how our business works, explaining it, that transparency, right? And that transparency builds trust. And now don't get me wrong, some customers immediately get turned off. They're like, no, this guy said he's the trucking company, he owns the truck. And I'm like, okay, I'm just telling you how this thing works. And so bringing that transparency to that industry, eventually I watched what the other salespeople in that business say start to sound a lot like what I'm saying. And I thought that was really cool that I was able to change a small industry. And I definitely brought that into cigars with me. So I was a sneakerhead. I was a collector of sneakers. At around 35, I started to feel like it was becoming a little immature. There was a lull in the market before it became what it is now. It had a moment, but then it started to kind of fizzle out. And right before this thing that happened over the last 10, 15 years, I started to feel like I have way too many sneakers. I'm not wearing them, and I'm a grown-ass man now. Maybe I should sell the sneakers. So I got rid of the sneakers, and I was kind of looking to pick up a new collector thing. I do love collecting things. That's just in my DNA. And I said I didn't have enough money to become an art collector at the time, and I was living in Tampa. I was working out of my laptop, so I wasn't a big coffee drinker at the time, so I would go into cigar lounges, and I was sitting in a cigar lounge. I would try a cigar just to be polite. I enjoyed the communal aspect of it. Started smoking cigars, started to taste the difference, and then one day, the tobacconist, he came in and he said, "Let me show you this. This is a special limited edition cigar. This will be gone by the end of the day." And a light bulb went off. And for some reason, I thought that these limited edition cigars were going to become very, very valuable, kind of like what happened with wine. And I was convinced, and I was always like 6 months ahead of the curve with stuff. I saw whiskey coming a mile away. I saw craft beer happening around that time. And I was like, always like 6 months ahead of the curve. And I was like, how can I work this to my advantage? Because I'm a kind of a tastemaker. Like I know what's going to happen just before. I'm not necessarily the person that made it happen, right? But I knew it was happening. I had my ear to the ground, let's say. And so, yeah, I was convinced that cigars would be worth a lot of money. So I started collecting cigars, and it got to the point where I had like a small room full of cigars from ceiling to floor, and it was crazy. Um, Around that time, my wife got pregnant, and we had to move to LA for a little bit to take care of a relative and to give birth. And we were moving from a 6,000 square foot home to a 750 square foot apartment. And it was obviously time that I had to sell some of those cigars. So when I went to sell them, I was rudely awakened. No one wanted to pay me what I felt those cigars were worth. And worse than that, I don't think that they understood what they were. And so I used my writing background to tell the story of each cigar and explain what made each cigar so special. And at the time, subscription businesses were just starting to pop off. And
This is which year?
This is 2000. This is around 2015, 16. So subscription businesses are starting to become really hot. And I said, why not just make it a subscription business? So that's what I did. And you got your subscription from me. 3 cigars came every month, and each one of them had a write-up that told you why the cigar was special, why I curated it, and how long I aged it for before you got the privilege of buying it at pretty much a discount, unfortunately. But I just felt better about people knowing what they were getting, at least, right? Doesn't make sense. You're going to work harder to make less, but I just felt like that was missing. And that's how I liked to smoke cigars up until that point, was to get a review, read it while I was smoking the cigar, watch, Dr. Joe break down a cigar, and then get that cigar and smoke it. That kind of thing. So that's the kind of content, that's the way I would use the content that was available to me. And I wanted to make that like an all-inclusive package. So it came ready to go. You don't have to hunt down the video or hunt down the writing. It's in the package with the cigar. And it tells you what to pair it with, which is something that no one did before me. They did not do pairing suggestions. And so that really helped out a lot too. People really enjoyed that experience. And it turned out, I guess it was missing. There was a void in the industry. There was a whole new generation of cigar smokers out there that wanted this type of experience. And we were able to give that to them, naturally and organically. And it just blew up. It didn't blow up at first, by the way. I almost shut down the business about 6 months into it. I had 15 members. And then Rob Gagne from Boveda called me and he goes, "Hey, I got this YouTube channel I'm starting. If you send me your cigars for free, I'll unbox them." And I was like, "Oh, great. Now I'm not only not making money on this thing, but I'm giving them away." But I decided to send it to him anyway because I wanted the Boveda sponsorship. And so like one hand washed the other, and I sent it to him, and he did one unboxing, and I got 50 new members overnight. And then I was like, okay, you don't have to tell me twice. This is how I'm going to market this thing. It's on YouTube. I get it now.
Lots and lots of great information in there. And I still haven't seen the pairing suggestions approach in any cigar lounge I've been to.
Yeah.
And I think that's very unique to get some sort of information while you're smoking the cigar.
Absolutely.
You gain a finer appreciation for the thing that you're smoking or drinking or just utilizing from knowing the history and what to look for. In so much of the cigar world, there is a lack of guidance. There is no presence of information. That's why maybe some people are pushing apps or some people are pushing websites, but having something physical and present in there with you, or let's say maybe it's some sort of a tour, having it with some sort of physical presence in the form of a book or in the form of a brochure or in the form of a piece of paper just to read,
Yeah.
because people are looking for things to do while
Yep.
smoking a cigar.
Yep.
Many people go to places alone, and it's for many people it's not a social activity. They just prefer to keep to themselves inside of a lounge. I really like the fact that you managed to add your own uniqueness to it, and being in the cigar world for a short period of time, 3 to 4 years myself, I haven't seen anyone do that.
Yeah, I'm starting to see it happen, and it's sort of bittersweet because it's like it's the thing that made us different. So now if everyone starts doing it, how different are we? And you got to remember there's always like a new wave of cigar smokers coming in. So eventually everyone might do this, and no one will remember that we were the first people to do it and set that trend. And so here, I was able to change another industry, and this one was a lot bigger than auto transport, and it was a lot more culturally set in stone, which is why it ruffled a lot of feathers. No one wants to do the extra work that we do, and that's part of that's part of the secret to our success. Is I absolutely love it. It's not work for me, and so doing an extra 10 steps is just fun. And a lot of people that have been doing this for 20 years see that, and they're like, ugh. You know how to listen. In 20 years from now, I might feel the same way. I might be like, oh, what's the new thing? I don't want to do this. I'm stuck in my way, But right now, I'm trying to create the new culture in cigars. And so we got to go all out and serve people in a way that they've never been served before.
And I would love to dig on the new culture in cigars that you're trying to create in just a moment, but bring me back a little bit to that time of 2015, 2016 when you were just starting off and you only had 15 members.
Yeah.
And would you call it a club? Would you call it an online club? Would you call it an online cigar lounge? What do you typically call it?
Well, it certainly wasn't an online cigar lounge. I would call it a subscription business. That's really what it is. And then eventually it did become a club. Community became a big part of it. I can't take it. I don't take a lot of credit for my work. You might hear me, and some people might think that I'm, I won't say arrogant, but overly confident in like, oh, you just heard me say we changed an industry. But I need people to understand that when I say that, I don't mean that it was something that I planned to do or was the I'm going to do this, and just like Babe Ruth calling, the home run. It wasn't like that. It's 50% luck and 50% execution. Without the luck, the execution wouldn't matter. And without the execution, the luck wouldn't matter. So I do give myself some credit, but especially in this communal aspect of it. I mean, during our peak in COVID, we had a couple dozen people, sometimes up to 100 people every single night on live herfs smoking cigars together. We built a community of people that now consider each other best friends in a lot of aspects. I made a lot of my friends through this community. And by the way, we lost some friends too. Group psychology is so difficult to manage. I thought managing a band was difficult. Now add a couple hundred people to that, or a couple thousand people to that, and you have people that show up for the wrong intentions. And one of the things I found really early was the people that want to be cigar brand owners that enter the community. I pretty much at this point, I just kind of let them go real early and say thanks, but no thanks, because they end up making it about them. And that's not what this is about. And it's certainly not about me either. This is about cigar smokers finding friendship through cigars. And it's a really unique hobby. A lot of people find it through sobriety. A lot of people find it through drinking. Like there's this, like people come to it when they need something. And oftentimes today, that also is a lack of community. It's just community, family. These are all breaking down all over the world. It's not just America. We're losing it because of internet and social
Lack of
media.
genuine connection.
Yeah. Lack of human connection. And if we can offer that also as like icing on the cake through the club, then why not? We just need to manage it and make sure that we're not attracting bad actors, because they come around. And when they come around, they create waves, and you just have to be careful. And I never wanted to be a dictator where I'm like, oh, this person's cool, but that person's not. No. You just need to, I learned a lot. I think Privada's gone through its first wave. We're heading into our 9th year. And I think we've gone through, this is just the first wave. And I think it'll go in waves of every decade. And I'm certainly more wise, more aware, and more ready to facilitate on this second go around, as I should be. I should have learned from any mistakes that were made. So.
And so, did you end up having your first cigar after 35? Was that your first experience?
No, my first.
Do you remember your first cigar?
Yeah, I remember it clear as day, because I've been asked this question on quite a few interviews, and it's interesting that I do remember it. I was 16 years old. Thanksgiving dinner. It's freezing cold out. This is during the 90s boom. Macanudo was the brand. My father's friend was like the Tony Soprano of the town we lived in Pennsylvania, and he brought cigars, and you're not going to turn this guy down if he offers you a cigar. So I sat out in the freezing cold with him and smoked a cigar. Did not understand why anyone would want to do this. I was a cigarette smoker at the time already. And I was just like, wow, this is a lot, man. And I'm not sure what I'm supposed to be getting out of this, but I did feel like a real man. And like I was invited to the OG club somehow. And that was really cool. So there was already some sort of mystique about cigars just from that encounter.
Love it. And I remember my first cigar was at an event of around 50 people, and I had no clue what I was doing, but
Sure.
I felt real nauseous. I think I went for a massive Romeo and Juliet, and it was definitely Churchill or larger in size, and I felt super nauseous. And I think many people get turned off because they just don't have the right guide or the right information at their disposal to know that, hey, it's a little bit different from cigarettes.
You know, one of the reasons why I think Privada Cigar Club became so popular was because humidors, cigar shops were such a turnoff. They were exclusive, not inclusive. And so you'd walk in and you had these they called themselves cigar nerds. My wave of people, we called ourselves cigar heads, right? I kind of coined that term from the sneaker community. Okay. And the cigar nerds were, they like to make you feel stupid. And it was very intimidating to go into a shop after the boom. And I understand why that happened. The cigar boom of the 90s in America was disco. And it was, by the end of it, it was just trash. They were just, I mean, there was so much money to be made, and there were so few cigars that people were, I've heard stories of, you know, like it was machine made. It wasn't what it was supposed to be. The quality just went downhill. And so this wave of what they call boutique cigars that started in about 2003, okay, that was the heavy metal. That was the answer to the disco. It was the complete opposite. It was the antithesis. And they started to use dark wrappers where the guys before them only wanted Connecticut shade. And it gave birth to a lot of great diversity in cigars, but it also gave birth to a very anti-cigar culture, which prior to that was the lawyer with the Porsche, the babes in the cigar ads. Now it's more like heavy metal. You know, some of these guys live in their parents' basement. They're the tobacconists. They have a lot of knowledge in certain areas, but, you know, they certainly weren't friendly, let's say. And that's also Gen X thing too. You know, no one took care of us, so we're not going to take care of you kind of attitude. And so that's, you know, that's where Privada kind of comes into the picture and says, no. I know you've been turned off to going to lounges, because I have too, but check this out. We're going to learn more about cigars than these motherfuckers ever even thought was possible. And we're going to find the real manufacturers, the real people making these, not just the brand owners who slap their name on the box. Okay. And we're going to find out the real deal together. And when we go back into those shops, we're going to know more than these guys ever knew. And that helped me a lot.
And it sounds like in the 90s and maybe early 2000s, there was a lot more of a snobby culture around cigars being for people from Wall Street.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Oh, 100%. It gave that image to the point where women were smoking cigars. Again, we have women that smoke cigars today, and God bless them. Half of them shop here. We've done a very good job of attracting the younger cigar generation and female smokers, and I love them because, man, it's just so cool. I don't know, it's just cool to me. And you know, I won't think too deeply into that, you know, whether that's sexist or not, but like, it's just cool. Women that enjoy cigars they're the ones that can kind of pal around with, you know, men and be a part of the community. And that's, I just find that to be cool. And I think most people do. And so, um, it was trending too hard. And the trend, or the look of the trend, was I'm successful. I'm at the bar. This is the new cocaine, right? We stopped doing coke for a little bit and now we're smoking cigars. And Jennifer Lopez and Madonna are here and they're smoking cigars too. And again, it's kind of cool, but there was this whole like blue collar movement that happened after that, that, you know, made cigars what they are right now. And so it's a mix of the two. And so you still have Southern California and Europe. This is still very much, I mean, Europe's more about the you know, the technical aspect of it, but you know, these are all still a child or children of those 90s movements, and the rest of what's going on at the dusty cigar shops all across America are you know, children of this Gen X, you know, cigar nerd movement. And now with Privada, we flipped another page and we've got this cigar head movement, we could call it, or it's just a Privada movement, or just, it's not boutique, man, because people mistake that word. And we brought that word craft into it. And I got to give Roma Craft, it was a part of their name. And I think he always talked about it, but he didn't do a good job explaining it, especially for newer generations. A lot of these people don't understand. You have to keep telling your story over and over and over again, because every 3 to 5 years, you have a whole new wave of cigar smokers, and they're going to learn cigars the way that they learn them, which is the available information. And so if you don't make this information available, then you're just saying, hey, I'm good with my crowd. I don't want to grow anymore. And I don't care what you think of me. And that's fine too. I respect that. However, craft cigars means you actually make your cigars. Boutique cigars means you go to a factory and have them made for you. That is how I describe boutique versus craft. Do you make the cigars yourself in your factory that you own? Then your craft. That means AJ Fernandez is craft. He makes his own cigars. He makes 40 million cigars a year, but he makes his own cigars. Nick Perdomo's craft. He makes his own cigars. Padron is craft. Okay, and to me, I'm taking craft over boutique any day of the week, man. Any rich guy can go down to the Dominican Republic, find a factory that'll make cigars for him, and slap his name on the box. That's not exciting to me. So a lot of people think that Privada's boutique, but we're not. We're craft. And we're not the maker. We give light to the makers. I hate it. And I was met with a lot of this from the boutique guys. They were like, no, no, no. I don't want to do anything with your club. Or they did it at first and then they saw us blowing up and they got jealous, or there was animosity for how quickly we were growing, or who knows what their, you know, internal emotions were. But I got met with a lot of like, no. And I was like, hey guys, Privada's a marketing company to promote you guys. How could you say no to us putting your cigars in the hands and homes of, you know, 10,000 cigar smokers? I couldn't understand that. So they forced my hand to go past them. And when I went past them, I realized, oh, half of these guys are posers, man. Don't meet your heroes. Okay. Half of these guys are just, they don't even know what the blend is of their own cigars. It's Pablo that's making the cigars. It's Abdel. It's Raul. It's Chico. It's not this guy. This guy's from Wisconsin. No offense to any of these guys, but let's get real here. I want to know about the people that really make the cigars, because I want the real information. And up until Privada, man, there was a lot of false information that's out there. And by the way, even I, having the relationship with the manufacturers, have to pull teeth to get the truth, because The truth is intellectual property to these factories. And so why would they want to give that to me? But I've had to explain to a lot of them that come from an old world that in the new world, it doesn't matter, man. You give away your secrets, but only you can do them this certain way. And we'll love you even more for that. So, that's I think you're getting some of the Privada mantra now. I'm sorry if I didn't answer the question exactly.
No, not at all. Let's keep going down the route of culture. Is there a distinction line between new age cigars versus old age cigars?
Yeah, of course there is. And so unfortunately with old age cigars, most of that is just status. This is SoCal, not to beat up SoCal, love SoCal, but the market in SoCal and the market has been in Europe for quite a while until now these price increases are going to force them to do other things. New York City, it's a status. They don't understand why they want Cuban cigars. They don't understand why Cuban tobacco may or may not be better than they don't understand why Cuban cigars themselves are not even half as good as New World cigars. They don't understand any of it. It's about the status. So when I hear someone say tradition, unless I'm talking to, Santana from DeCrossier or some, old school cigar manufacturer, I'm like, you just want a Cuban cigar to say that you're smoking a Cuban cigar. Someone just told me a story right now. The guy's wife, he fixed something for someone. The guy's wife said, "Oh, my husband smokes cigars. He has Cuban cigars. I'll go get you a Cuban cigar." And she comes out with a Padron. These people just, the name Cuban cigar, it's like it legitimizes something for them. And that's supposed to be, tradition. Well, I got news for you. Traditional cigars, Cuban cigars, are made so poorly. I would never, ever, ever in a million years buy cigars from a factory that operated the way that Cuban cigar factories are operating. So that's my answer to traditional cigars. I wouldn't buy them for my business because I won't put my name anywhere around them and I won't curate them for my business. Is Cuban tobacco the best tobacco in the world? I would say yes, only because it created the benchmark. And when it's done right, there is no much better than that. When you do it right, that soil is the best for growing tobacco. However, because the production has become so poor, they're no longer the best cigars in the world. Nicaragua is the new Havana. I've been saying that forever. Nicaragua is the new Havana. It is the new Cuba. Esteli is the new Pinar del Rio. We're in a whole new day. And if you're missing out on Nicaraguan tobacco and some Honduran tobacco, you're missing out on some of the best cigars that have ever been made.
1,000%. And I find them to be 10th of the price and 3 times better. I've had the pleasure of trying some Cuban ones while I was in Prague. And I'll be honest, I wasn't impressed. And I wouldn't even say I have this crazy built up palate for cigars. I would smoke a few times a week or once a week at most a nice cigar. And the vast majority of what I smoke is Nicaraguan because Nicaraguan is what is most available here in Eastern Europe.
I want you to understand why, and I don't mean to cut you off, but I want you to understand why Nicaraguan is so good. It's because guys from Cuba that were a part of the Cuban cigar trade were able to go to Nicaragua and start factories and do it in a militant way. Okay. Whereas the Dominican Republic is more of a free country and having fun. Okay. In Nicaragua, while it's a free country, you really need a job. And if you have a job, you're going to work in a way that no one from other countries is going to work, which means it becomes more militant and disciplined. And you can create a workforce that does things in a specific way. And when you can do that, coming from the Cuba trade, Cuba, if you grow the tobacco, you have to sell it to the government. You never see it again. You have no idea what brand of cigars it was used in. Then you have the factory workers. They have no incentive to roll better, roll good, bad, and China has bought them all. Europe has bought them all before they can even get them into boxes, which means there's going to be less fermentation, less curing. They have less money to do all this stuff. the country is so poor, and shame on any of the European cigar manufacturer or the distributors that go to Cuba to this Habanos festival and eat filet mignon and shrimp while the citizens of that country are starving like it's a damn concentration camp. It's sick to me, and you should stop going to that festival and supporting that country in any way, shape, or form. That's my rant. But I mean it.
When would you say the process began to worsen? When did the Cuban cigars begin to decline? Was it in the 1960s with the takeover of Fidel?
You're asking the wrong person. When I know the answer to a lot of questions in regards to cigars. When I don't know the answer, I will tell you clearly I do not know the answer, and I don't think anyone really knows the answer to that. Here's what I can tell you: pre 92, it was a different seed. Okay, so we had different seeds. I would say if you pressed me on when the cigar manufacturing changed in Cuba, the answer would be it was when Davidoff left Cuba, and that was in the early 90s, which is around the same time that blue mold hit the island and destroyed half of their crop. Okay, so you got two things that happen. The production's going down because the world is smoking more Cuban cigars. Okay. We're coming into this cigar boom. Everyone wants Cuban cigars. So, dude, when the demand for something goes up and you want to make money and you're not concerned with legacy and craft, you're just going to pump out whatever you can get into those boxes and get them out to the commerce to sell, right? And so Zeno Davidoff, prior to the blue mold plague, decides I've got over 1 million cigars here that shouldn't bear my name because they've been made so poorly. Okay. And this, supposedly, his cigars are made at Laguito, which is the place that makes Cohiba. Okay. And it was the factory that made Fidel's cigars. Okay. Mind you, here's another fact that most people don't know: Davidoff didn't have one Vitola that was over a 38. Okay. That means a Lancero was his largest gauge format. Okay, so that was Cuban cigars. These were Coronas that they were smoking. They would cut those Lanceros in half and smoke them, one before breakfast and one after. Okay, so he says, this isn't good enough. I can't put my name on it, and burns like 1 million cigars or 100,000 cigars. Okay, so he's seeing it. So it must have been around that time because he was happy with the production prior to that. So he leaves, meets a guy named Joe Pito Kellner, okay, in the Dominican Republic. And Joe Pito, master salesman, awesome tobacco guy, brings Zeno over, shows them the time of his life, and tells them how they can revolutionize cigar manufacturing in Dominican Republic the way they want to. Zeno says yes. Joe Pito calls his cousin, who left to go work at a cigarette factory, managing a cigarette factory in Colombia. That cousin's name is Henke Kellner. Okay, Henke, you got to come back. We got this big opportunity. We're getting the Davidoff name here, and we're going to run it out of Tabadome, which also made cigarettes at the time. All these guys came from a cigarette background. Okay, and then they get Henke back. Henke's the master of the plant, GM all the way, and starts putting the team together with Eladio and his family and a few other people. So I would say, I guess I do know the answer to that. And the answer is it's when Zeno left Cuba in 91-ish, 92, somewhere around there.
And you mentioned the Privada movement, and you talked briefly about how the culture changes every 5 years.
Yeah.
I noticed after 2020 there was a big boom with tech and with crypto, and there was a lot of money flowing through, and a lot of younger people started trying cigars. I think maybe Andrew Tate had a little bit to do with it. What would you say is the trend nowadays?
I think Tate came a little bit later. I think he definitely had something to do with it, though. But what was the final question, though?
What would you say is the trend now in the cigar culture? What is your average cigar smoker look like?
Yeah, so there is no trend in cigar right now. The trend is people are finding it organically at the time that they're supposed to find it. And this is a beautiful time to be a part of the cigar industry. It's not as exciting as it was during the peaks, but this is the real time where the foundation gets laid. It's not just because Andrew Tate's smoking cigars and, every 28-year-old wants to smoke a cigar now. It's not just because people are stuck at home and they're drinking a ton of bourbon. And guess what goes really well with whiskey of all kinds? Cigars. Okay. So now we're getting into every young person. Now, I'm only going to speak for men because I can only speak for men, but I'm sure it works the same way for women that get into cigars. Cigars will call you at some point in your life. When you answer that call, how you get introduced to cigars is the most important part. Because if you walk into some dingy ass B&M that's got Fox News on all day and the same four guys there that think you're liberal just because you're under the age of 30 or some, weird political stuff like that, you will get turned off to cigars. If you walk in and the tobacconist makes you feel stupid for picking cigars that they deem to be of less value than what the cigars they smoke are, you will get turned off to cigars. So here comes Privada Cigar Club. We get on YouTube and we give you an easy path at home where you're not going to get embarrassed or feel overwhelmed. We're going to send you the product. We're going to teach you about the products to the point where you're going to know more than what the sales reps at the actual brands and shops know, because you're not being sold a bill of goods by someone who's marketing a product. We have products from everyone, and we're getting the information that we can get that no one really got before. Or if they did, they kept it to themselves. They felt like that was their intellectual property. Well, we're just going open source with this stuff. So that's really cool. As far as trends go, there is no trend right now. It's just organically growing. And I think that this is the best time in cigars. While it's fun to put out 25,000 subscription boxes a month, and while it's fun to turn the money printer on and be able to buy millions of cigars, which is my favorite thing to do, and keep factories alive, I think that excess leads to, I don't know. I think it's just better when it's manageable and controllable. And right now, I think everything is perfect the way it is. And I don't think that you have one specific group of people getting into, cigars. So
Yeah, that has been my observation as well. I've noticed there's quite a few young people, there's quite a few middle-aged, quite a few older people. It seems to be nowadays of all ages, which is great. And the name Privada, where did that originally come from?
yeah, so if you look at the most expensive Cuban cigars, they're called Reserva Privada. Sometimes they have a black band with an R and a P on them. And I took it from that. I said Privada Cigar Club. And I was able to trademark that. I've actually spoken to some people at what is it, Drew Estates, and they said that they were thinking about asking me to stop using it at one point, but they decided that it wasn't really theirs to. It's a descriptive name, private, and so Privada Cigar Club, Private Cigar Club. I just thought that was pretty dope, and so the best Cuban cigars have the name Privada on it. So it's private reserve, right? And then we have a club. So it's private club, Privada Cigar Club.
Love it. And you started it as a promotional platform, a
Yeah.
marketing company for
Yeah.
cigars, not a retailer. What was that original vision for you?
Well, I started it to sell my collection. That was the first and foremost thing, right? It was like, I'm going to sell my collection. I need to sell this collection. But then once we have enough members, we would be an excellent marketing vehicle for brands, to create awareness, because Cigar Aficionado had already started to look like a pay-for-play magazine. And honestly, if you weren't one of the big boys that were down with them from the beginning, you weren't getting that number one spot, and it just was too expensive. Cigar Aficionado, I think the minimum buy-in at that time was 120 grand a year. So it's a lot, right? So I realized that I didn't want to become a cigar manufacturer, right? And I didn't even want to put my name on cigars because I felt like that was kind of ego. So I thought it would be really cool to create this vehicle where cigars could market launches of new products to consumers directly. What I didn't realize is that went against the entire industry. The entire industry was built on brand to shop, then to consumer, and they hated online. So that became a challenge. And then I was loud about it, and I was gaining success way too quickly for the norm in this industry. And it created a lot of animosity, some jealousy, some hate. And, so very quickly it turned into, nah, we're not going to give you our cigars. And then I was like, oh, really? Well, oh, really? You watch Pee Wee Herman? Oh, really? I was like, oh, really? Well, I'm just going to go to the guy you buy the cigars from. Boom. I don't
Love
need
it.
you. And so if you don't like it and you don't like my style and you don't want to sell me your cigars, I'll just go to your factory and my money's green. Peace, see you later. And that's what we did. And man, we've never looked back. And now we have companies that pay us to launch cigar brands for them. And that's awesome. We've turned around some big brands in our industry. Supreme Leaf, we did that project. That was Aganorsa. Charlie Minato at Half Wheel wrote an article that basically said the Supreme Leaf changed the entire trajectory of Aganorsa Leaf in the most positive way possible. And it looked and tasted nothing like anything they had ever put out. That was my brainchild. I asked them to make me the creative director. They said no, but we'll do one cigar with you, and that's the cigar, and it's been their hottest thing ever since. We recently worked with a brand called La Serena. Everyone forgot who they were. We put out something called Super Sea Monkey in the Limited Cigar Association, which is beyond Privada. This is our wholesale division going back to the shops, and we'll talk about how we did that, right? Because online and shops are supposed to be mortal enemies, but it doesn't have to be that way. And so the Limited Cigar Association proved that, okay? But we just, put La Serena back on the map. This is the hottest cigar in the cigar industry right now, this Super Sea Monkey. No one can get it. Young cigar maker out of left field, Raul Lanusa, a true Nicaraguan, not a Cuban, worked for other companies, started his own shop in his home. I found them luckily and signed them up, and, we're doing business. And so now La Serena is benefiting from the promotion that is Privada Cigar Club. So by all intents and purposes, we're actually a marketing company that has a curator and a creative director as the founder. And I love both of those things. I love finding the coolest cigars in the world. And then I take them here and I age them in a way that no one will because it's too expensive. I put them in coolers with two-way humidity packets. And those packets they allow the cigar to become something different than they would with water in the air. Okay. It's vapor, not water. So it's totally different. And the coolers really lock in flavor, and they don't age the same way they would. If I age a cigar for 1 year in a cooler versus 1 year on a shelf of a humidor, even in the box, it's a total different cigar if you taste those two cigars side by side. And we've proven that to ourselves a number of times. So,
And which one came out better? And I'm super curious because in
yeah.
my head, hey, like if a bad boy is sitting in a cedar box, like the cedar's going to get infused and it's going to be a lot more of a rich flavor as opposed to a cooler.
Yeah.
But what has been your experience like?
Yeah, well, it's the same thing, man. Wood is great for a cigar if you want to impart cedar notes in that cigar. However, when you leave whiskey in a barrel for too long, after a certain amount of years, it can turn. Now, Scotch is different because it's kept at cooler temperatures and it has a winter and all that stuff. It doesn't have as high a heats in the summer. So it's 30 years is like 15 years in Kentucky, right? But you go to Kentucky, they'll tell you there's a point of diminishing return where you can start to turn that bourbon into not very good because it's got too much wood and too much old wood. And so the same thing happens with cigars, man. You age a cigar in a box for too long, it changes, and it changes in a woody way. And I don't want my cigars to taste only like cedar. It's nice in a traditional style cigar to put them in a cedar box for up to a year. More than that, we're starting to get too much. I also want to taste the tobaccos the way the grower intended them to taste, the way Mother Earth, Mother Nature intended those tobaccos to taste. So putting them in a wood box for too long is basically infusing a cigar, and we don't want to do that necessarily, or we want to, and you can say that, like the double wood cigar. Like, these are the ideas that I have. We age cigars in bourbon barrels. There's no bourbon in the barrel anymore, but oh my gosh, do they pick up the flavor, and they're fantastic. It's not an infused cigar, but it was aged a certain way. And that's not the natural form of that tobacco. And I'm really into the natural form of that tobacco. When I age in the cooler with all cigars of the same type, okay, you suspend that tobacco in time, but you allow the tobaccos to marry together. So I could have something in a cooler for 10 years. As long as I replace that two-way humidity, man, it's going to be really, really good. It will mellow out a little bit. But if you go into a cigar shop and you find underneath they had a cigar, whether in box or with the box open, and that's, oh man, those came out 5 years ago, 6 years ago. Yo, bro, there's going to be no life left in those cigars. They will be an experience, but they're not going to be like when I age a cigar 5 years. So that water in the air, it's a bad idea. You've seen it. You've walked into a humidor, you see that. You're like,
Yep.
what's. I've seen. Go follow that. I like to go into cigar shops. I'll follow that. I'll look at where it lands, and then I'll look at the cigars where it lands on, and they're covered in mold. You don't want that. That's not good for cigars, and that's not good for flavor. And my cigars don't really get moldy. It's hard for me. I'm trying to do a reel on mold, and I can't even find cigars with mold on them. It's very difficult.
I love what you said. Suspend the tobacco in time, but allow them to marry together. There's something very poetic about that phrase.
It's a beautiful thing, but it's expensive. The coolers cost me nowadays $90 a piece, and they don't give me wholesale on them. I've got 1,500 coolers with about 2,000 cigars in each one. The collection fluctuates between 2 and 3 million every year. It just depends on where we are.
And you mentioned turning around Supreme Leaf. What was that turning point? What was the lever that you pulled that allowed it to bounce back up?
It's my art. It's my art. They already had amazing tobacco. I didn't do anything to the company. I didn't change the way they roll cigars. Some companies that come to us, I will ask them to change the way they roll cigars. I didn't ask them to change the way they rolled cigars. I knew what their big hits were because I'm a cigar head. And I said, I wonder if these two cigars had a baby, what it would taste like. And they went back to the factory and blended that and sent it to me. And I said, it needs a little bit more spice. They sent it back to me and I said, yeah, this is ready to go. Let's do it. And then I made the band and they were like, no fucking way. We're not putting that on a cigar. And I flipped. I remember I got very mad. Terrence Riley, the head of sales there, is one of the nicest, head of operations. He's one of the nicest people you will ever meet. Forget about just the cigar business. He's just a great guy. And I yelled at him and I felt so bad. And you know what he did? True nice guy format. He didn't even say anything back. He was just like, I forget what he said, but it made me feel so guilty. He said, I forget what he said, but he made me feel so guilty. And I was like, okay, I'm sorry. I apologize for getting upset with you, but I am strongly convicted in this band. And he asked me to give him a diagram of the band and why I chose what I chose so that he could go back and tell his company why we were doing the band that way. And I still have it somewhere on my desktop. It's a little diagram and it tells you why I chose that color orange, why I chose that color blue, where I put the old logo, not the new logo they were using at the time, why I wrote Ilos, what was it? I forget. It was Ilos Bandoleros or something like that because they had these 6 Cuban guys that wrote and they had a nickname for them. So I dug into the real root of what was going on at that factory and that company and that brand. And then I modernized it with a band that certainly grabbed attention compared to their other bands and compared to most other bands. And and that's where I have a talent for that part. I tend to know what's going to grab attention in a good, authentic way. And that's the whole key to it. And so I sent them the diagram and they said, okay, great. We understand now. Thank you. And that was it. And since then I've stopped yelling at people as much. I felt so bad about that. And it wasn't right that I, was loud. But ultimately I was so passionate about the project. I hated explaining myself. That's why I own my own company. I'm not very good with authority. And so when you work with others, you need to be able to, answer questions without getting upset or having a tantrum. So that was that. With La Serena, I just took their logo and slapped it on a band that I had been working on, and was like, the thing with La Serena was like, he was disappointed in me because we were talking about doing this project for years, and it just never came to fruition. Then I couldn't get him the cigar he wanted, and he was telling me that Terrence Riley told him I was a marketing genius, and I was like, oh boy, that's a lot to live up to. So I was like, this has got to be hot, and I had this cigar come through from Lanusa, and I was like, dude, this is Super Sea Monkey. We're gonna put La Serena's logo on it. And we slapped the logo on it, and the rest is, this is the most viral cigar in our industry of the last few years. You do a Google search, you're coming up in Reddit forums, reviews. Real cigar smokers are like going crazy over this thing, and you can't get it anymore. It's sold out before we could even get it out the door. So that's been a lot of fun. I enjoy that. And so we're able to turn companies around. We're a marketing company, okay? But we're also a collection, a curation company. And we're also a brand in the sense of, when we curate these cigars and we take that same tender love and care that the manufacturer put into it, and we put that same passion and discipline into aging, post-production aging, then we're talking about these coolers. And then we're talking about, we have a unique product that no one else can get anywhere else. And that unique product that no one else can get anywhere else shouldn't look like anything else, which means I get to use my art, which is fun, nostalgic stuff. These are the kind of things you find on my desk. They're like old, candy from Japan and like weird, stuff. And I love.
It's very creative. It's very different. And without giving too much of your sauce away, I know you have a knack for bands. You have a very good keen eye for good marketing.
Thank you.
What are the most important parts when branding a cigar or taking a cigar to market? What are in priority the levers that you can pull when branding a cigar?
Yeah, I think you're asking how a songwriter writes a song or how a painter paints. And while there are some technical painters out there that can tell you these are my methods, I seem to live in this really unique space where art meets commerce. And I'm blessed. God has blessed me with this ability to be an artist, but not have so much integrity that I'm not willing to do what will work. Okay. And also being a business person, but I'm also willing to invest in the craft. And so there's this intersection where these two things meet, and rarely does one person meet in this space. And that's where I've been really, really lucky. I think Virgil Abloh lived in that space too. I'm sure there's better designers, but they can't do business. And then, of course, there's better business people, but they can't do art. And so I wish I could tell you what it is, but they come to me in dreams. They come to me in forms of FOMO, where I look at another product and I go, damn. They come to me mainly in nostalgia, and they mean something to me. And without that authentic meaning to the artist, it will not translate to the audience. Okay. And every single thing I put out, I always say to myself, every cigar I buy, every band I put on the cigar, if I have to smoke all of these myself, I will be happy to do that. And I think that shows in your work. And so I'd love to be able to tell you that using striking color is my key, but it's really not. Doing things that make me happy in the band, things that are clever, things that I think will make other cigar smokers happy, mad, or sad. It changes from day to day to day to day, and it will change from year to year to year. I'm having all types of different phases and seasons that I'm going through. So I wish I could answer that question, but it is innate. And if you as a brand owner can't do that, you should hire someone who can, and make it make sense somehow.
Love it. And $100 million plus in revenue, 70,000 members, over 7 to 8 years, 26,000 boxes a
You've been
month at
reading. You've
peak.
been reading the. What is it? The. It's not the Spectator report. The. Oh, what's the name of it? My friend Lincoln Salazar's magazine. Oh,
I guess so. That's
yeah,
just a bit of the information that I pulled
yeah,
off online.
yeah.
But how much would you credit that to your marketing expertise? Was it entirely marketing, or was there something else there?
Oh, it was 50% luck and 50% execution. Marketing, sure, sure, you need marketing, and I think that's part of the execution, right? And again, I'm lucky I'm able to do this as a one-man show in that sense. Of course, I have a strong team behind me, but they're not doing the creative or marketing levers typically. So marketing, I don't look at marketing like a different. I look at a business as like it's a sword. Is the is the blade separate from the handle? No, it's a sword. It's a business. A business must market. Uh, so I don't know what I can tell you other than the art did the marketing, and then it seemed to be that when I got on camera, things really heated up. And so it would make sense that a lot of businesses that have a lead, a brand owner, Jeff Bezos is Amazon, um, Elon Musk is Tesla. Having a front man does seem to help in communicating what you're trying to do. And we were doing something so different and so out of the box. Someone needed to, hello, do you not see what we're doing here? That kind of thing. And I'm still doing that every day. And so I think it's all just business marketing. Listen, the marketing wouldn't have mattered if I couldn't fulfill those orders, right? If I couldn't fulfill those orders in a quick amount of time, they weren't going to stay with me. We have guys that have been here from month 2 on. Month 1, I think I have one member from month 1, 2 members from month 2, like four or 5 members from month 3, and so on and so forth. So we have guys that have been here almost 9 years. So you don't keep those people by not executing, by not entertaining. And so that's the other thing with the bands is like, how am I going to keep you excited? How do I translate what this cigar tastes like visually? There's an answer. How do I translate what this cigar tastes like visually so that when you see it, you know what to expect from this cigar? That's what a good cigar band should do. So I don't know how much of it is marketing, how much of it is branding, how much of it's all the sword, and no one part is more important than the other.
I love the visualization of it, the sword. And I even got one sword right here. It's a
Cool.
Soviet shashka.
Nice.
And a lot of your bands are very fun, and a lot of them are inspired by even other brands. So much so to the point where I think you've received a few cease and desists in the past. Mind touching a little bit on that?
No, it's cool, man. They used to call me Cease and Descend, which is my last name, ironically. Yes, I wear them proudly. I have 11 cease. No, I think I have 9 cease and desists. I'm looking for number 10 anytime soon. Listen, my idea with art and taking other people's art is, how dare you? How dare you become a part of my brain, a part of my memory, a part of my childhood, a part of my life, and expect me never, ever to borrow that and use it in other places? Your Heinz ketchup, okay? I'm going to put your bottle on a cigar and put Privada Cigar Club on it, and we're going to love it the same way we love your ketchup. And yes, you can send me a cease and desist, and yes, I will stop because that is your wish, but don't dare become a multi-billion-dollar company. More importantly, a place in the minds of billions of people, and expect us never to borrow your colors, shapes, flavors, things like that. That's just not right, in my opinion. And I will use things that I maybe shouldn't until I'm asked not to. And so We've had these from some of the biggest brands that we all grew up on, and most of them have been very, very nice, except for the one company that should have been nice was very, very mean and did everything they could to make my life miserable. But we got through it, and so we're here now. The only one I've gotten two of these came from actual cigar brands. One came from Fuente, and the other came from a company that I won't even mention because they're not worth mentioning. They're just another rich guy's project, and I don't think he even runs the company anymore. It's these like kids run it for him. Like, it's like, dude, give me a fucking break. He sent me a cease and desist because I was selling his products on our website, but I wasn't like signed up in some program that he has. Meanwhile, he was selling it to a wholesaler who then turned around and sold it to everyone. So it was just so ridiculous. And that's why I won't give them any credit for that cease and desist. But you can, of course, Google that.
Nobody is safe from the Pravadans. If you're a part of nostalgia, they're coming after you.
Yeah.
And just to mention a few of the fun brands, Dunkin' Donuts, Sesame Street, Reese's. Why specifically those of all the different brands? Is it just ones that sit very close to you in your heart?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know where you grew up, but here in the States, like these were the staples that we grew up on. I mean, how could they not influence me in a million different ways, in a million different colors, in a million different shapes? Those eyes, how could I not borrow those eyes? I just don't understand how I'm not supposed to use the colors and shapes in my head, and you have beaten these colors and shapes into our heads. So how dare you tell me I can't use a shape? Or I can't use an eyeball. I'm not taking the actual entire thing, but man, you influenced me so much that, someone made this light. Whether they licensed it with them or not, we know whose hand that is. That lives in our minds. And, well, they must have licensed this because it has the face in it. But we also have 1928. That's our program with the original Mickey Mouse from 1928, which is in public domain now. We were able to use that and create a 4-pack of cigars that was really awesome. And so it's really cool to be associated with nostalgic brands like that. They live in my mind. So like I'm going to use them until I'm asked not to. And of course I would respect that.
And your cigars are in age-verified environments. Gas station machine-made cigars have cartoon characters on them. Do you think the criticism was actually about the kids, or was it
Well,
aimed
I don't know
towards
what
you?
criticism you're talking about. Can you explain that?
I think it might have been something that came up online, and I don't remember exactly.
Are you talking about the PCA and Carlito Fuente and all that stuff?
That was my other question. So I know Carlito Fuente weighed in publicly. Charlie Minato at Half Wheel named you specifically. Would you share a little bit about that episode?
Yeah, I mean, nothing exciting has happened in this industry for, who knows how long. And so someone came along and updated the business, and they're so old and antiquated that they just, believe that things should remain the way they should remain. And so they saw the success of Privada Cigar Club and they said, how can we put this guy out of business? Oh, here's something he's doing that you know what? Maybe at the time the FDA was the big enemy. That was how they got you to give them money. Maybe if we say that he's going to bring heat from the FDA because his cigar bands are blue and ours are maroon and gold foil. Maybe then we can get people to stop carrying his product. Oh, and let's get the trade organization involved. The guys that we're paying all this money to, we're not just paying you this money to go to Washington and lobby for our rights. We're also paying you to keep people out of this business and to keep people from becoming successful very quickly in this business. So we're going to employ the trade organization to weigh in on articles saying that, or write articles saying that nothing new should ever go on a cigar. And it was complete BS. It goes completely against my First Amendment rights, freedom of speech, freedom of just, putting out what I want. This is regulation. These are all the guys that talk about liberals and all the rules and stuff. Yet they're the first one to impose rules if they're losing the game. And let me tell you, they're losing the game because they refuse to adapt. Thinking that me putting things that were inspired by our youth on cigars in form of colors and shapes was going to bring FDA heat on us when they're sold in shops that no person under the age of 21 would ever want to walk into, that sold on products that no person under 21 would ever want to pay $10, $15 for. The kids buy blunt wraps. They don't buy cigars. And if they do, they buy like Philly blunts or like cheap stuff or Black and Mild. That's what we used to, you know what I mean? Like, so this idea that I was the public enemy only worked in my favor. They spent all this time collaborating. They finally got together on something, okay? And that thing was that Privada Cigar Club was public enemy number one, and they were going to put us out of business by claiming that we were going to damage the cigar industry. Well, guess what? All you did was give me a multi-million-dollar marketing campaign that let every cigar smoker in the country know who we were and figure out whether they loved us or hated us. And if they loved us, oh my God, they fell in love with us because we offer something new that no one's ever offered before. And that's access to the best cigar manufacturers in the world in a fun, experiential way that you guys just don't want to work that hard to deliver. So, that's how that went. Do I think that there was any justification in what they were saying or what they wrote? I think if there was real concern, they should have phoned me and said, hey, we're concerned because of this. I actually got to the point where I just called the FDA myself. And I just said, hey, this is what I'm doing. This is who I am. Is there anything about this that you think is, something that you're frowning upon? And basically the answer was, if you're not marketing to children, we're not that interested. Then the FDA report came out, and it turned out Carlito was all over that thing. And basically what they were saying was they weren't worried about graphics and stuff. They were worried about people making the cigar lifestyle look cool, like back on some 90s stuff. And, my name wasn't mentioned. So it turns out all that was for nothing. I got amazing advertising out of it, and they're all so upset that they still haven't written about me since, and they won't cover anything Privada related, which further antiquates them, further puts them back in the Stone Age. We are the new thing. We are the new culture. I am not going to be apologetic about this. Why? We give access to experiences and the real people that make the real products. And we do things in a way that no one else will because it takes too long and it costs too much. And I gave everyone an opportunity, and my door is always open. You want to work together, collaborate? That's what Privada is here for. If not, stay out of our way. That's it.
What do you feel the underlying reason was for Carlito Fuente to go after your brand? Did it have to do something with competition? Did it have to do something with you doing something different? Maybe going against the grain? Maybe pushing a different kind of culture?
Okay, put yourself in his shoes. You're making crazy money. Okay, you're the number one brand in an industry, and something new, the electric car, you're Ford, and the electric car comes out. Why wouldn't you create propaganda to make people believe that product is no good? It's business. That's it. Was it personal? I think it became personal after I thumbed my nose at them. I think they wanted me to kiss the ring or do so. I don't know what they thought, but they approached me wrong, and they got what was coming. And it was funny as hell. And I'm still laughing about it to this day. And yes, it burned some bridges, but so what? I like a small menu, it keeps me focused. And it turned out it attracted the right partners to Privada Cigar Club. And, we're in a league of our own. And the fact that none of these established media companies will write about us that just made me market even harder. So now we have our own thing, and it can't be, it's can't stop, won't stop. You know what I'm trying to say?
And speaking of cigar media, you went to war with Half Wheel. What happened there?
Oof, war. We went to war with Half Wheel. Um, what happened there is, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for the scientific data and meticulous attention to detail and documentation of this industry that Half Wheel does. I just have to put that out there. I have a tremendous amount of respect for that. When you say we went to war, I think that's a little bit of a dramatic thing, but it's probably the closest thing to a war that they've been in that I know of. Um, what happened there was they tried to put me out of business, in my opinion. They wrote that article. They had no business writing. They made the PCA puts out a thing, 3 people read it. Okay. When they take that letter that the PCA puts out and then they document it, now we have the tobacconists, some of the tobacconists reading it, which I don't want to give them too much credit. I haven't needed them for marketing. I would, I would take all the marketing I can get, but I mean, Privada hasn't been mentioned in Half Wheels for like 4 years. So we've become wildly successful without the use of any of these marketing, companies, and blogs and all that stuff. So, uh, you know, going to war, I look, they talked about, it started with them talking about tobacco in a way that bothered me, and it bothered a legend in our industry, a guy named Manuel Quesada. And Manuel called me after after Charlie wrote an article about a cigar that we had made with Manuel, and it I wasn't upset about the review. Look, Half Wheel has reviewed 3 cigars from Privada Cigar Club. 3 cigars. That's it. My whole career, they've only done 3 cigars. 2 of them ended up in their top 25 list in different years. Okay? You reviewed 3 cigars, 2 of them end up in your top 25. That's all I'm going to say. Now, this other one gets like an 83. Again, I don't care so much. It was the way in which he wrote about it. He also harped on me. Made me sound like some sort of a used car salesman, when here I am, a passionate person trying to bring brands up and elevate them to new heights. And I took offense to that. Manuel called me. He took offense to the article, said he called Charlie and gave him a few words of his mind. Okay, this is an old man, a legend in our industry, also a Vietnam veteran. Shout out to Manuel Quesada and the whole Quesada family. So that's when it started. And I was like, you know what? You're not better than us. You're not better than me. That's how you want to be. Okay. So let's do it. I'm going to talk about you and give you a little piece of your own medicine, because you certainly are not a perfect, website person, any of this stuff. So I started picking up their reviews, grabbing the same cigars and going on camera and talking directly to them. Oh, this is what I think of this cigar. Really? It took you 4 hours to smoke a 4-inch cigar? It was a lot of that kind of stuff. And sure, maybe it was childish, but at the time I didn't care. And I certainly wasn't going to be pushed around by a bunch of guys behind computers. Okay. The other thing with that was, as well as you can document an industry, if you don't actually do that thing for a business, you can't really have a narrative on it, man. And that becomes really tough on journalism, because it's like, that means that if you're not a 5-star general, you really shouldn't be writing articles about how a 5-star general handled the situation. You know what I'm saying? So that's a whole thing. But yeah, I felt like they were being disrespectful to cigars and the people who make them, and that's who I represent. So yeah, I'm gonna stick up for my friends, and that's what I started to do. And then it came to a head. I forget what it was. It's been so long since then. I remember putting out a video that got like, it went crazy, and the entire industry, by the way, was calling me, thank you for finally putting these guys in their place, and this, that, and the third. But that really wasn't, it wasn't what I set out to do. I certainly didn't see that happening ahead of time. And I have nothing but respect for the website. I mean, look, you got to understand that review media in cigars is complete garbage in the sense of, if you're talking about journalism, it's garbage. If you're talking about a cool website that reviews cigars, great. But man, whose cigars are they reviewing? Only the people that give them money? Well, come on. So also, like, if you're the guy that takes the check at the media company, you can't be the guy that reviews the cigars, because that's not journal, right? Like, so we don't really have journalism in this industry. What I will say about Half Wheel is that they do fantastic documentation of details. The problem is there's so much, there can be, from Charlie in particular, a lot of opinion interjected into that piece. Okay. And again, I have respect for them, I guess. I don't really, they're not in my business. They're in the blog business. I'm in the cigar business. So, I don't know where these people, get off talking about people and their decisions that, I guess as a consumer, but then the blog isn't for consumers. It's for the industry. And I always had that problem too. I would send them articles and they'd be like, no. And I'd say, well, why not? Well, you're a retailer. Yeah, I'm a retailer, but so what? I'm doing a project with, Cigar Aficionado. I sent them all their heroes. I'm doing a project with all their heroes, all in one project. Eladio, Henke, Jopito, Tabadome, the whole thing. And they're like, no, because you're a retailer, we won't put. No, it's not because of that. It's because you don't want to see someone else shine. And I don't blame you, because you're old and you don't want to work anymore. And that's fine. But get ready, because here I come, and I got a ton of energy, and I love tobacco in a way that you may have never loved it. And I'm going for it. I'm going for it. And I'm serving people in a way that they can't get served anywhere else. And that's it. So you want to write articles? Do me the favor and give me the promotion. I love it. If not, I understand why you won't write about me. Is that messed up? Sure it is, but that's your prerogative. And that's how I feel about that.
I think there might have been also a cigar aficionado story. What happened there?
Cigar aficionado. First of all, Marvin Shankin is like one of the coolest dudes. He's the owner of the thing, right? But he's also the owner of other things, and he's also, I think, in his 80s and retired, basically. I did a video on him, and he called me and directly, which shows you how real men operate. Okay, real businessmen, they actually pick up the phone if you do something nice for them and say, "Hey, thank you." And he said, "You're really cool." And we don't have a lot of stuff like that in cigars. And I think you have a bright future here. You have any desires to work with certain people? Do you have any ideas? And I said, well, I got an idea. I want to totally revamp Cigar Aficionado. And he said, okay, let me plug, I think was it Matola? I forget the guy's name. I think it's Matola. It's his second in command or whatever. The guy who really is doing probably a lot more of the work. I think it's Matola. I'm not sure, but I could be wrong. He says, "Let me get you in touch with this guy," and he loops him in, and then it was just it just wasn't going to work from there. I think there's a lot of animosity towards me, and I understand it, man. Look, you think look at all the shit that Jordan talked about LeBron. It's unnecessary. It's a different league now, different rules, even different game. It's just unnecessary. So if Jordan was running the league, would LeBron have every chance in the world? No. But and the things that I asked for were a little grandiose. So the few suggestions that I had for Cigar Aficionado were a few fold. One of them was, I want the cover of the magazine. Okay. And I want the cover of the magazine, not just for my ego, but because it will show that you're in touch with the new chapter of cigars. And it will also, for the first time, put a real cigar person, okay, on the cover, not some actor who smokes cigars once a month. Okay. That was my thing. And that's where you're losing your audience. And I was very clear about that. They did not like that, hearing that. Okay. I was also very blunt and clear about the fact that the magazine has turned to just an advertisement. And so I said, hey, I got an idea. You guys went out and did all this literary work. You went to the farms, you went to the factories, and you wrote about this stuff, but it was in the 90s, and no one knows about that anymore. I want to do a piece, half a page every issue where I redo your art. Like I bring back your article and I say, look, this is when, this guy went here and talked to this person, and then maybe with an update on how that project went and where it is now, and to show that, hey, you guys have put in the legwork. Because if you just pick up the magazine fresh, it's just an advertisement for tequila watches and the biggest name cigar brands that most of us won't even smoke anymore. So there's that. And I was just met with a lot of, and then I was just very clear with them. Hey, look, man, everyone thinks that you just pay for play, to which I was told, I'm offended by that. It's like, you can be offended all you want, but I'm giving you what people think. This is priceless stuff. If you didn't know this already, Jesus, you must not be reading the comments. And so I was met with dirty looks when I saw the guy. I don't know if it's Matola. I think it's the other guy. I forget his name, and it's unmemorable. He's unmemorable. The whole thing is unmemorable. It was the best marketing that this industry ever saw, and I'm following in their footsteps, except I want to keep it pure. Funny thing is, he asked me, what cigar maker would you like to work with? How about Carlito Fuente? And I was like, nah. I think this was before none of my people smoke Fuente. This is a different generation. We're all, and by the way, people are going to watch this and they're going to be from that generation. They're going to be like, who is this punk who thinks he knows something? And they're right. They are right for their cigar story. But we have a new cigar story now. Things changed, and we're in charge of our own future and direction. And that's where Privada comes in. 2017, things changed. In 1994, when Aficionado came in, things changed. There was the industry before Aficionado. There's the industry after. Now there's the industry before Privada, and there's the industry after. And it changed, and we changed it. And we're going to keep leading that change and changing the culture for the better. And, to all the sales reps, it seems I really piss off a lot of this. All the consumers love me, especially the second they buy something from here. They're like, I've never received service like this before. Clearly, you care about what you're doing. The proof is in the pudding. It's in the bags you put the cigars in. It's in the way you store the cigars. It's in the way they smoked and tasted. It's in the way you served me when I told you I wasn't happy with something. It's there. So the consumers, but the hate, when I look at the comments and I see the hate, I follow the thread, and it's always like some cigar broker or some tobacconist that wishes they were in our shoes. Some sales rep that should have started his own brand that never did. It's like, come on, man. So, we got to get rid of that cigar nerd energy, and we've done a good job of that. And that war with Half Wheel was me trying to purge that cigar nerd energy that you somehow know something we don't, okay, just because the statistics, okay? That was what I was doing. I was leveling the playing field for inclusiveness, not exclusiveness.
Is all of that frustration with the media, with the cigar media, what caused you to build Cigar Public, or was it something completely different?
It is. It is what caused me. In fact, it was around that time, and boy, did we get a lot of press on it. And Cigar Public did quite well. The problem with Cigar Public was I just, we were able to attract some really good talent on the reviewing. But on the article writing side, I had to do a lot of the legwork, and I really wasn't there. There was a guy named Eric that was helping out tremendously, but and Joe and a bunch of the reviewers were just fantastic, and they're friends of mine. But the reviews were blind, by the way. How could you review cigars any other way? How could you review a cigar any other way? Also, review them for consumers, not for this Olympics of cigars. Have you seen this where these guys in Europe get together and whoever can make a cigar last the longest time? The Grand Habano Cigar Championship. Have you seen this? Cigar champion. There's a guy who owns a brand. He was the cigar champion. They get together in tuxedos and they smoke a cigar for as long as they can. And whoever can make that cigar last the longest wins this title of, that's not how consumers smoke cigars. I don't give a damn about that. That's silly. The same thing with the reviews on Half Wheel. It's like no one cares about the construction that much. If I have to relight a cigar once, I'm not deducting 10 points for that. Okay, it's part of the experience is to make sure it's still lit. I enjoy using the lighter once in a while. What I'm concerned with is flavor. I'm concerned with also construction in the terms of, is it waving? Is it terrible? Is there flaking ash all over me because it wasn't constructed? But if it was rolled decently well and the flavors are phenomenal, that's what I'm concerned with. And you know, most of these guys are getting so technical that it's silly. You don't need to that's not for, you know. So you're telling me you could smoke the most flavorful cigar in the world that everyone should be so lucky to get their hands on, and you could give it a 70 because you had to touch it up? That it just doesn't make sense. So we created a Cigar Public to combat that, and it was doing quite well until I made a huge mistake, which I must admit was 100% mine. And we were switching over some websites from a hosting service, and also transitioning to a different web company, and we lost that website. So we could bring it back at any time we want. We'll see what happens in the future. I don't know how necessary cigar media is, period. Cigar smokers are the key to this industry. Shops can be the key to this industry. When you can merge those two things together, that's more powerful than any article or any magazine that can be written. And that's what we've done with the Limited Cigar Association. We have merged cigar consumers with cigar shop owners and tobacconists, and we've gotten them to hang out again. Because there was a long time where cigar shops were either people stopping in for gifts, or the same five guys. And what our goal was to get most of our cigar smokers who hated going into shops to go into shops, say hello, meet some people. And it wasn't always fun, but it worked out in the end. And the Limited Cigar Association is probably the most successful thing that's happened in the last, since Privada Cigar Club. I mean, it's, we're sitting on the two companies that really are the most influential and game changing of the last, I don't know when. Aficionado changed the game. The Patel, Rocky Patel changed the game. Don Pepin changed the game. Drew Estate changed the game. I don't know if I'm missing anyone else. Before that, it was Padron and Davidoff changed the game. Some other companies like Perdomo have their own legacy in their own right. And there's many more of those companies that I'm not mentioning. Ernesto Perez Carrillo. I'm not trying to leave anyone out, but game change, things that changed. We haven't really seen that. I guess Drew Estate would have been the last one. And that's why I get compared to that all the time. Oh, this is the new Drew Estate. It's not the new Drew Estate, but I appreciate I don't own a factory. I'm not looking to own a factory. My name shouldn't be on many cigars. If it is, it's just for fun. But the actual person who made it, their information is available on our website, along with tasting notes, pairing notes, and any information you could possibly ask for on the cigar, because that's what matters, shining a light on the people who actually make the product. I love getting to make the art, and then we love turning it into an experience that you can share with other people. And that's the thing with Privada. It's like someone wrote me the other day. It was like, I bought one for my wife. I bought a subscription for me and a subscription for my wife. Why are they the same cigars? And I'm like, because they're meant to be shared experiences that you can try. And then you can go on our Facebook group or in our Instagram comments or YouTube comments and go, yo, that cigar was amazing. And two other people might be like, yo, I love that too. Are you going to the Hungry Herf in Youngstown, Ohio, August 1st? Like, let's meet up. And they become friends, bro. I mean, people make friends through this community. So it's just been a wild ride. I'm super excited. I for the first time, the last 2 years were a little bit of a downer as far as I was just like, I don't know where I'm going from here. Like, what am I? And now all of a sudden I'm hit with this light of inspiration to do more and to do better and to change the game even further. Far from done yet. We're just getting started. And in terms of cigar companies, I mean, Drew Estate is, I think, 27 years old. The companies that I respected before me are 25 years old. I mean, we're 7 years to have this impact in seven. I'm sorry, going into our 9th year. So in 9 years, in under a decade, to have this kind of impact is it's pretty phenomenal, and I don't take it for granted.
And you briefly mentioned Limited Cigar Association. How does LCA actually work? Can you walk me through it like I'm a shop owner who's never heard of you?
Yeah, super simple. I said to myself, if we're gonna do two things, one, we got to cut this online versus in person out. We got to cut this battle out. It shouldn't be a fight, okay? Because that just weakens an industry, right? When you're divided, that just weakens everyone, okay? So we got to stop that right here. How can I get online to play well with brick and mortar? Okay, well, I come from sneakerhead background, right? I lived at the time across the street from Supreme. I'd walk past there every Thursday. The kids were camping out. I was like, we're going to do a drop. We're going to do a monthly drop at cigar shops. We're going to use our crowd. We're going to let them borrow our crowd. So here we went out. We worked so hard to get 10,000 members, okay, into Privada, so 10,000 active members into Privada. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to allow shops to borrow that. And everyone was like, you are insane. Why would you give your customers away? This is the dumbest thing you could possibly do. And I have to admit, it hurt when I would see people go into shops and buy more cigars at the shop than they do from I'd be like, bro, where are you hiding? You got this budget for cigars. You're just supposed to go get the 2 cigars that we're putting out. So the Limited Cigar Association is a monthly drop of 2 cigars, sometimes 3, if we have a box product that month. And it's a subscription for shops. And it allows them to expose themselves to a younger generation of smokers or a different group of smokers that were Privada heads or are Privada cigar smokers. And it's an enhancement for the Privada Cigar Club members. It's like, hey, I get you these 3 cigars. They come to your door every month, but you got to do a little hunt every month too, and get out to your local brick and mortar and support a local small, business. And it's been a wild ride, and it's been amazing. And at first we did it. It was right at first because COVID was just so busy. But then we realized we were oversaturating the market with too many different things and all this stuff. And so we realized that we have to be extremely true to this name and extremely authentic and only make X amount of cigars, which means we can only serve X amount of shops, which means you can only get X amount, every release. And so we're navigating that well now. We've figured it out, and it's starting to really grow legs.
And between Cigar Public, LCA, the factory, the subscription, what is this empire or vision that you're building? What is next for Privada?
What's next for Privada is 2 things. One is to become a better partner, both a better partner to the retail shops that we work with. No one promotes like we do. These other brands just think that it's okay to just sell a shop a cigar and, hey, you sell it. We don't do that. We get you the cigars, and then we get on social media, and we get on email blasts, and we get on YouTube, and we go, hey, you got to go to your local LCA shop and buy these cigars. And while you're there, make some friends. Okay. So being a better partner, we're literally having brainstorm meetings every week about how can we get more people into these shops in a more engaging way, right? And that also means that those shops need to also think about us as a partnership as well, because so often do we send you a fresh new face and they can fuck it up, okay? They are rude to the customer, don't realize what they're coming from. I can't tell you how many shops join the LCA. It takes them a year to think about it. They join the LCA. It comes, they put it down in the bottom corner. New guy comes on shift. They don't even tell the guy what the LCA is. Oh, yeah, we signed up for this new program. So one of my members comes in and goes, you got the LCA stuff? And they're like, what LCAs? And that's it. That's it. I'm not going back. Brian, I get that email all the time. Brian, I'm not going back. Either you sell me the stuff or I'm just not going to get it. I don't care. So it's a partnership. The other partnership that I want to be even better at is with the factories. And this is probably the most, I won't say the most important, but it is, because I purged in my relationships. I would buy 1,000,000 cigars from this factory, 500,000 cigars from that factory, and expect delivery dates and then not give them another order for 2 years. I'd rather have it be more consistent. I'd rather give them 100,000 every quarter versus a large, order all at once. Because it keeps us in better partnership. And there's, to me, no worse feeling than finding the right factory and then disappointing them in terms of, keeping them alive. They have mouths to feed, and these are real people. This isn't just a shop where a guy can just, go down the street and get a job at a coffee shop if it doesn't work out. Like, these are people that need this money. Their families depend on them. So becoming a better partner is the thing. I could tell you that there are some other fantasy growth stuff, but it's not worth talking about because it's just probably not going to happen right now. We're at a real unique place in commercial real estate. And I'm going to be very interested to see how it plays out for some of the companies that are opening huge, warehouses and spaces right now. Patience is a virtue, and this is a 100-year company, not a 10-year company. Privada Cigar Club is not for sale. Limited Cigar Association is not for sale. I'm not here to sell these companies ever. I don't want to ever do that. I've seen what happens to people when they sell their companies. I am not interested in that. There was a time where I was just like everyone else. Oh, you build a company and you sell it. Yeah, but if that company is a living organism and only you can keep it alive the way it's supposed to be alive. And it is such a satisfaction that I get from serving these people and getting these thank you letters and getting the gratification of putting out stupid reels that people comment on and love, and we're all getting through our days together, and to build those relationships and then just sell them away for profit, that does not feel right to me. This is not a car dealership. This is Privada Cigar Club, where our members are like family to us, and we're not for sale. So I have time to think about how we might want to grow, but being a better partner both to the shops and to the factories, that's where my head is at for just building our foundation even stronger. The consumers know, the members know, the customers know that no one else serves them like we do. So that part, we got it locked down. We're good. We're good on there. Of course, I'm always looking for ways to entertain my people, but yeah. So right now, I'm not really thinking about growth in that sense. I'm thinking about how to make this an even more enriching experience for all the people involved.
Myself, coming from a startup space, specifically health tech and med tech, it's always the dream to scale and exit to
Scale.
Some
10x.
PE,
10x
VC,
that.
10x scale, and you exit. If it's not scaling and exiting, and yourself having a very intimate relationship with your company, it's your baby. Like, I can feel that from you. You care a lot about the community you're building, your customers. What does winning look like for Brian Desmond? What is the end goal with all this?
I think, Anatoly, I think I've graduated from that thinking. And it was just recently. And by the way, I'm 47 years old. So, things are changing, and my daughter's getting older, and I'm starting to realize the value of the things that get you through the day. And my members, the club, the LCA, the shops, the community, the culture, These are all things that help me get through the day. Without them, I may not. I'm a survivor. I'm always going to be okay, but I certainly wouldn't have as enriching of a life and as uh, productive feeling of a life, and that's so important for the human experience, man. Winning was some. If you talked to me 3 years ago, I would have given you a strategy on why we're going to be the last man standing in the cigar business and how I'm going to take it over, and it's not important. Winning, what does that even? I don't even know what it means anymore. I've won. There's nothing to beat. There's nothing to win. I have all the money I could ever ask for. I have all the friends I could ever ask for. I have all the love in the world, which, by the way, I come from nothing. Abandoned kid, with no love. And, so to be in this position, man, I want to give this feeling to everyone. I really do. And I hope that most people can experience even just a glimmer of this in their life. So winning isn't on my mind. I've already won. And that changed a lot. And it actually caused me a little bit of misery because my whole life has been about winning and not understanding how it's sort of immature or unnecessary to think in that way. So winning isn't the thought process anymore. The thought process is enriching. Okay. The thought process is, I guess my idea of winning is being able to do more than anyone else can or is willing to do for their members, for their consumers, for their business partners, for the shops that purchase from them. That is because, we all die one day. And when I die, I want people to remember me in a really positive way and say, man, they don't make them like that anymore. And that's winning to me now. I know it's probably not Instagram, a great Instagram, thing, but that to me is winning. And so it's enriching. It's building the foundation even stronger, better. How do I serve you? If you come in contact with me, how do I make your life better by being in contact with me to the point where you don't want to do business with anyone else? That, if you want to call that winning, then sure, that's what I want to do. And I'm set up to do that, to make a difference in your life when you allow me the opportunity to serve you.
And I love the reframe of how do I win versus how do I enrich other people's lives, because it's almost as if you take the attention and the pressure off yourself and make it more so about helping and serving other people and putting the spotlight on them and focusing on them as opposed to putting the spotlight on you. And one particular video that comes to mind with this is one of Gary Vee's videos. I think someone approached them, some young lady entrepreneur, and her whole thing was she wanted to build a company to be someone. And she framed the whole conversation as, oh my gosh, you're so much higher than I am. Like, I can't wait to succeed in this business because I'll become someone. And he looks at her and he says, hey, Jane, you're someone now.
Yeah. Yeah. Acting as if is so important. The law of attraction is so important. It works. I don't think there's anyone contesting it anymore. Maybe we could contest whether a goal board works or not, or certain methods work. But, putting yourself in the mind state of where you want to be versus where you are is how I got here. Gratitude is my number one default. If I'm can't think of anything to think of, if I'm bored, if I'm feeling bad, if I'm feeling good, it is gratitude. It is thank you, God, for allowing me this opportunity. Thank you for allowing me to think about what I want. Thank you for allowing me this air I'm breathing, the email I just got, the cigar that I'm smoking. So gratitude, the law of attraction. I mean, these are things that I built this business on, and we've done really, really well, and we're really fortunate. So I have to believe that works 100%. And I think I'm a little guilty of, I wish everyone could have this experience. I really do. I really do. I wish everyone could feel success, whatever that means to you. I hope that you find success because it's a great feeling, but it's also not what you expect because it doesn't last very long. And then you get left with this, well, what's next? And this is how you become a Conor McGregor. Okay. This is how you become one of these sick YouTube stars that have everything you could ever want and they just can't stop. They just can't stop to the point where it becomes gross or ugly or just a turnoff, you know? So that's the thing is I want everyone to reach success, but then you also need to understand that after I was really good at struggling to become something, you know? But what I had to learn was once I became something, like what to do or how to not do anything, how to not, keep wanting more and more and more. And it's something that I battle with every single day, but there is enough. And, you set that enough. What is enough? These people that can't stop that, they're missing something in their life that will never be fulfilled by money and success and winning.
Agreed. And tracking that, we're almost at the 2 hour mark.
Wow.
Would you have a few extra minutes for a quick rapid fire round of questions?
Yeah, of course, man. I'm here.
Let's roll. Question number one. What's the best cigar under $10 that nobody talks about?
I have to mention one of my own, which is going to be the Privada cookies. They're like $9.99. The best cigar that I don't make is probably going to come from Eric Espinosa. I'm going to under $10. I think that his the 601, the blue is under $10, and so is the green. I think they're all under $10, and they're fantastic. HVC also makes a couple of good under $10 cigars.
What's the most overrated cigar in the industry?
I mean, that's. How about we reframe the question? What's the most overpriced cigar in the industry? And I'm going to have to say at this point, it's Davidoff. Their prices have gotten out of control and they're not delivering on those prices.
Damn, it stinks for me. I really enjoyed that Davidoffs.
I'm not saying that they're a bad cigar. I'm saying they're not $50 cigars. This is getting out of control here.
Fair enough. One brand that refused to work with you that you still respect.
Nick Melillo at Foundation. He didn't refuse to work with me. We worked together, but I think Nick is a like the complete opposite of me in a sense. I also think Nick Melillo is one of the only, few what we call gringos, American people in the industry that actually knows more about tobacco than I do. There's a few others. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to, I'm my farm time is not my farm time is not as long as some of these other guys. But I picked up a lot more in working with other factories and the techniques, the processing, that kind of stuff. But can you ask me the question again? Because I got too long-winded on that.
No worries. What's one brand that refused to work with you that you still respect?
Padron and Foundation. Foundation actually did end up working with us, but in the very beginning, and since then they have not worked with us. I think because Nick Melillo and I are like the complete opposite personalities. But I hope he knows how much respect I have for him and his brand. I think that there are very few finer cigars out there than what are being made at Foundation, and the guy's a phenomenal person. It would seem, whether or not we vibe.
Love Padrones, and whenever I look into the comment sections, everyone absolutely loves them.
Yeah.
What's the best cigar that you've ever smoked?
The best cigar I ever smoked was actually a cigar called the Daruma, which was made at the merge between Camacho and Davidoff, which is actually the Aroa family and Davidoff coming together and making cigars. And it was put out under the Room 101 brand at the time. It used, I believe, either a Brazilian or an Ecuadorian wrapper. And what the genius of this thing was is that the Aroa family has some of the best filler Corojo in our industry, and Davidoff gets to buy some of the best wrappers in our industry. And when these two companies merged, they were working together for a few years and producing what I believe to be some of the best cigars that were ever made. Unfortunately, while I feel that Iroa puts out a fantastic product and Camacho, well, no, I really don't like Camacho very much. I think the marriage of those two companies and them working together was a really good thing, but it didn't last forever. Let's just say that. Yeah. And again, I think Iroa puts out fantastic products.
What's the worst cigar you've ever smoked?
I'd rather not say that. Probably a flavored cigar. Maybe acid. Sorry, guys. I just can't stand flavored cigars, man.
I'm gonna be infusing some cigars. I don't know how I feel about flavored
Mm-hmm.
cigars. One buddy was in Netherlands, and he brought back one that was just like the flavor is tip. The tip is flavored,
Yeah.
and it wasn't too bad. I was actually okay with it, but I know
Hey,
that a lot of people really dislike flavored
hey, you
cigars.
go have your own cigar experience. You don't need to do things the way that I think they should be done. I, to me, flavored cigars are pointless. But I do love barrel aged cigars, which are infused to some degree. So, you know, when you say you're infusing cigars, that interests me. Um, Actually putting food grade flavors, spraying it on tobacco and rolling them, to me is not the way to go. It's like flavored whiskey. Why would I want that? I want to know what it tastes like naturally. That's the God given, thing. So, but you can then take that and infuse it and smoke it and do different stuff. That's cool. But just like actual flavored cigars, yeah, I can't do that.
What is your go-to pairing?
Well, it used to be bourbon and cigars. That was my go-to pairing. I quit drinking a year ago. Um, so currently my go-to pairing is a flat white and a cigar. So an espresso drink of any kind and a cigar, coffee and cigars. But I will say tea, many different teas. There are so many good teas out there that are fantastic with cigars. And you can even put a little cream and a little honey in there. And holy cow, you can have an experience that not a lot of people get to have. And it's maybe better than all of the pairings I just mentioned.
Completely agree. Like tea is my go-to. I tend to my mouth gets pretty dry when
Sure.
smoking,
Sure.
and so I love some sparkling water or
Yeah.
just some nice tea, especially this time of year. It's hella cold here in Riga.
Yeah.
What's the most money you've ever spent on a single cigar?
The most money I ever spent on a single cigar was $150. And it was a Cuban cigar from, I think, the 60s or 70s. And it was disgusting. It was not worth smoking at all. And it wasn't worth the money. It was just cool to see what it could be like. It was a tubo. So, I feel like it got aged better than it would have out of the tube. But holy cow, was this thing terrible.
What's the biggest business mistake that you've made?
Not understanding how cash flow works. That was the biggest business mistake I ever made. Also, being too loyal to certain employees. That was, probably we're very lucky. We didn't make a. By the time Privada took off, I was wise enough to not make major mistakes. I've grown up around a lot of entrepreneurs, and I came from New York City and Pennsylvania, near Philadelphia, and I've been around some savvy business people, and I think it's innately in my DNA. I was lucky enough not to make some huge mistakes, but Yeah, I would say that. Maybe I would have handled some of those situations you mentioned differently if I was in today's day and age. But I don't know. But yeah, there were a couple of people that I let stay here longer than they should have, knowing that they probably weren't giving it their all.
Who's someone in the industry that you'd want to sit down with over a cigar?
Oh, well, I'm very lucky. I've sat down with most of them over cigars, from Henke Kellner to Eladio Diaz to AJ Fernandez, Chico Rivas. Um, who else? Man, I don't want to be disrespectful and forget other people, but so many. The family, the Leones that run, Tobaccos de Purascal or Costa Rica. Um, yeah, I've sat down with the guy from that. He's like the most famous Cuban tobacco grower, Diaz Prieto Diaz, Luis Prieto Diaz. I had him come here. I've really gotten to sit down with most. If there's one person I would have liked to have had a cigar with, it's Zeno Davidoff.
100%. Final question from me. If you were to leave the world tomorrow,
Yeah.
what would be the message that you would give to the youth?
Create your own reality. Create your own world. You can do it. You can create your own world. Start with small incremental scales. I didn't expect to be where I'm at, but I was thrilled even with the auto transport business, making six figures a year from home. I wanted to be my own boss. I never wanted to answer or beat to anyone else's drum, and I was able to do that. And so we've taken that to a whole different level. So do your own thing and become who you really want to become. Don't hold back. Uh, you can create your own life. You really can. So they try to keep you in a box. It's your job to get out of that matrix. So that's what I would say is and read, man, read. And that's one thing people look at me, they probably don't think, man, I've read every business book you could possibly imagine. Um, there's a few still that I haven't, but most of the most of them I've read them. So read.
Brian, this has been awesome. Um, I learned a lot in the past 2 hours, and I really appreciate your time. Is there anything else that you want to share with the audience before we let them go?
No, check us out at privadacigarclub.com. Go into your local brick and mortar, ask them if they're a part of the LCA. If they're not, urge them to sign up for a couple of months and see if it works for their shop. No hard feelings if it doesn't, but it probably will. And it's only, we need more people like you in cigars. You're coming into cigars with no predisposed, bias towards anything or anyone. And it's so refreshing. I can't tell you how many of these I sent a cigar blogger. The guy's starting out. He's brand new. I saw him. I liked his content. I said, "Wow, this guy, he's got talent." I sent him cigars and said, "Hey, if there's anything I could do to support you, please let me know." He accepted the cigars. A week later, he said, "I'd like to send these cigars back to you." I said, "Why? Is something wrong with the cigars?" He said, "No. In fact, they look amazing." I said, "So why do you want to send them back?" He said, "Well, I can't be associated with someone who's anti-industry." And I said, "Oh, wow." So someone got in your ear and you feel a certain way. You didn't know me last week and we were friends, but now it's so it's crazy to me that the American market loves this division, this Trump style media of I'm on this side or I'm on that side. And you're obviously a bright enough guy to not pick a side because you don't have to. Um, you know, I hope that you stick around and keep doing this. And I hope that people pay you to do this because your time is valuable. And, that's the only way guys like you are going to stick around. So if there's anything I can do for you anywhere along your journey, I'm there to help. And I hope to get over there pretty soon and smoke a cigar with you in person. I'd like to check out Latvia.
Likewise, I'm waiting for you in Riga, and man, I
Cool.
really appreciate it. The funny thing I found about the cigar world is that it's surprisingly enough fairly small.
Yeah.
Everyone kind of knows each other, and we're lucky to grow year over year. It seems like cigars seem to be picking up.
Yeah.
I'm very bullish about the industry, and I can't wait to interview more gentlemen such as yourself that
Thank you.
know a whole crap ton about cigars and the world of the fine smokes.
Yeah. I think you're going to have a great time doing it. Like I said, curb the hate talk or the division talk, and be clear about that, man. Let them know, hey, that's not what I'm here for. I think you all have a story to tell, and I want to hear your story, not how much you hate the next person, because there's just so much of that. It's like, oh gosh, get it. Like I didn't mention any of the people I dislike in this entire interview. There's no reason to do that. So you're gonna have you're also gonna run into a lot of boring characters. Unfortunately, a lot of these people aren't great on camera, and it's amazing because some of these people can go into a brick and mortar and work the room, but the second you hit record, they get nervous or they're just and I have that advantage. I was on camera a lot as a musician. So, I understand that, but we definitely could benefit from some more big characters in this industry jumping in front of the camera. So thank
Love
you
it.
for what you're doing. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate your interest. And again, I'm here to support you if you need anything ever.
Appreciate you, Brian.
Cool.